The sound of shattering glass echoed through the dusty streets of Deadwood, South Dakota, followed by Sophia Norwood's belongings tumbling onto the dirt road, and she knew her father had finally made good on his threat to cast her out forever. Standing in the merciless afternoon sun of July 1876, Sophia watched as her mother turned away from the second-story window, her face twisted with grief, but not strong enough to defy her husband. The heavy oak door of the Norwood residence slammed shut with such force that several nearby horses startled at their hitching posts. Sophia stood frozen, her simple brown dress already gathering dust as townspeople began to emerge from shops and homes to witness her humiliation. She was 20 years old, and until 3 days ago, she had been the cherished daughter of William Norwood, owner of the most successful dry goods store in Deadwood. That was before he discovered she had been meeting secretly with Thomas Garrett, a gambler and known associate of questionable men who frequented the saloons. Her father had forbidden the relationship months ago, but Sophia had believed herself in love, convinced that Thomas would change his ways for her. She had been wrong. Thomas had disappeared the moment her father confronted him in the street, riding out of town without so much as a backward glance, leaving Sophia to face the consequences alone. Her father had called her shameful, disgraceful, a stain on the family name. Her mother had wept but said nothing in her defense. Her younger brother had been sent to his room so he would not have to witness his sister's fall from grace. Now, Sophia knelt in the dirt, gathering her scattered possessions with trembling hands. A worn Bible, 3 dresses, undergarments, a brush, and a small wooden box containing her mother's old jewelry were all she had left in the world. The good people of Deadwood watched with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. Some had always thought the Norwoods too proud, too successful. Others simply enjoyed the spectacle of someone else's misery. Shameful, Mrs. Henderson muttered loudly enough for Sophia to hear. Throwing herself at a no-good gambler. What did she expect? Sophia's cheeks burned, but she kept her head down and continued gathering her things. She had no one to turn to. Her father's decree had been clear and public. Any family or business that offered her shelter would find themselves cut off from his trade and influence. In a town like Deadwood, where fortunes could turn on a moment's notice and alliances mattered, few would risk such a consequence. She bundled her belongings in one of the dresses and stood, looking down the main street with no clear destination in mind. The sun beat down mercilessly, and she could feel sweat beginning to form beneath her collar. She needed to find shelter before nightfall, but where? The respectable boarding houses would turn her away, either out of loyalty to her father or fear of association with a fallen woman. The less respectable establishments would take her in, but at a cost she was not willing to pay. Sophia began walking, her boots stirring up small clouds of dust with each step. She passed the assay office where prospectors brought their gold, the butcher shop where she had shopped with her mother just last week, and the church where she had attended services every Sunday of her life. None of these places held sanctuary for her now. At the edge of town stood a small boarding house run by Mrs. Whitmore, a widow who had always been kind to Sophia when she came in to purchase fabric and thread. It was a long shot, but Sophia had nowhere else to turn. She climbed the steps to the wide porch and knocked on the door, her heart hammering in her chest. Mrs. Whitmore opened the door, her round face creasing with concern when she saw Sophia's bundle and the desperation in her eyes. "Child," she said softly, glancing past Sophia to the street beyond. "I heard what happened. I am sorry, truly I am, but I cannot take you in. Your father made it very clear this morning that anyone who helps you will answer to him. I have 3 boarders and a business to protect. I cannot afford to lose everything." "I understand," Sophia managed, though her voice cracked. "Thank you for your kindness, Mrs. Whitmore." The door closed gently, and Sophia stood alone on the porch. The sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In a few hours, darkness would fall, and with it would come dangers she had been sheltered from her entire life. Deadwood was a rough town, full of miners, gamblers, and men who saw a woman alone as an opportunity. She walked past the last of the respectable buildings and found herself near the creek that ran along the outskirts of town. A grove of cottonwood trees offered some shade and privacy. It was not much, but it would have to do for the night. She settled herself against a tree trunk and opened her bundle, extracting the wooden box her mother had given her years ago. Inside were a few pieces of simple jewelry, nothing valuable enough to sell for more than a few dollars, but precious to her nonetheless. There was also a folded piece of paper she did not remember seeing before. With shaking hands, she unfolded it and recognized her mother's handwriting. "My dearest Sophia, I am sorry I did not have the strength to stand up to your father. I know you believed yourself in love with Thomas, but a mother knows when a man is not worthy of her daughter. You deserve better than a man who runs when trouble comes. I have hidden $20 in the lining of your blue dress, the one with the pearl buttons. Use it to start fresh somewhere. Know that I love you, even if I was too weak to say it to your face. Your loving mother, Margaret." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she searched through the bundle and found the blue dress. Sure enough, carefully sewn into the hem was a small fortune, more money than she had ever held in her hands. It was enough to buy passage on a stage, enough to survive for weeks if she was careful. Her mother had planned for this, had known what would happen, and tried to help in the only way she could. The tears came freely now, streaming down Sophia's face as she clutched the money to her chest. She was not entirely without resources, not entirely without hope. But she was still alone in a world that was unforgiving to women without protection or family. She would need to be smart and careful about her next steps. As the sun finally set and the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Sophia made a small camp beneath the cottonwoods. She had no food and no blanket, but the summer night was warm enough that she would not freeze. She used her bundled clothes as a pillow and tried to sleep, though every sound made her start awake in fear. Dawn came with the sound of horses and wagon wheels on the road nearby. Sophia sat up, her body stiff from sleeping on the ground, and brushed the leaves from her hair. She needed to make a plan. The stage to Cheyenne left every Tuesday and Friday. Today was Thursday, which meant she would need to survive in or near Deadwood for one more day before she could leave this place behind forever. She walked to the creek and washed her face in the cold water, trying to make herself presentable. Her stomach growled with hunger, reminding her that she had not eaten since yesterday morning. She would need to use some of her precious money to buy food, but she had to be careful. Deadwood was a small town, and word would spread quickly if she was seen. As she considered her options, the sound of approaching horses caught her attention. 3 men on horseback emerged from the trees on the opposite side of the creek, rough-looking characters with hard eyes and unshaven faces. They spotted her immediately and began crossing the shallow water toward her. Sophia's heart raced as she grabbed her bundle and began backing away. The men were smiling, but there was nothing friendly in their expressions. They were looking at her the way wolves looked at wounded prey. "Well now, what do we have here?" the lead man said, his voice oily and unpleasant. "A lady all alone by the creek. That is not safe, miss. All sorts of dangers out here in the wild." "I am fine, thank you," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was just leaving." "No need to rush off," another man said, dismounting from his horse. "We could keep you company, make sure nothing bad happens to you." "I said I am fine," Sophia repeated, her voice firmer now despite the fear coursing through her. She turned to run, but the third man had already circled around behind her, cutting off her escape. "Now that is not polite," the first man said, also dismounting. "We are just trying to be friendly. Maybe you could be friendly back." Sophia clutched her bundle tighter, her mind racing for a way out. She opened her mouth to scream, hoping someone from town might hear, but before she could make a sound, a new voice cut through the morning air. The lady said she was fine. "I suggest you boys move along." Everyone turned to see a lone rider approaching on a magnificent chestnut mare. The man was tall and lean, wearing dusty traveling clothes and a wide-brimmed hat that shaded his face. 2 6-shooters hung at his hips, and he carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who knew how to use them. The 3 men exchanged glances, sizing up this new arrival. The stranger sat relaxed in his saddle, one hand resting casually near his holster. "I would hate for things to get unpleasant this early in the morning," he continued, his voice calm but carrying an edge of steel. "The sun is barely up, and I have not had my coffee yet. Makes me irritable when I have to deal with men who cannot take a hint." The lead man spat on the ground. "This is none of your business, stranger." "I am making it my business," the rider said, still not moving from his saddle. "Now you can ride on peaceful like, or we can have a different kind of conversation. Your choice, but choose quick. My patience is wearing thin." There was a long moment of tension where anything could have happened. Then the lead man grunted and gestured to his companions. "Come on, not worth the trouble." They mounted their horses and rode off, but not before shooting dark looks at both Sophia and her rescuer. When they were gone, the stranger dismounted and approached Sophia, removing his hat. She saw he was young, perhaps 24 or 25, with dark hair and striking green eyes that held both kindness and a hint of weariness. His face was handsome but weathered by sun and wind, the face of someone who had spent most of his life outdoors. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked gently. Sophia nodded, finding her voice. "Yes, thank you. I do not know what would have happened if you had not come along." "I have a fair idea," he said grimly. "This is not a safe place for a lady alone. I am Lucas Vaughn." He offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Sophia shook it. "Sophia Norwood," she replied. Recognition flickered across Lucas's face. "The merchant's daughter. I heard something about that situation when I rode through town last night. Rough business." Sophia's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I suppose everyone has heard by now." "Small town," Lucas said simply. "People talk, but that does not mean they are right in what they say." He looked around the small camp she had made. "You spent the night out here." "I had nowhere else to go," Sophia admitted. "My father owns half the businesses in Deadwood. No one will help me." Lucas was quiet for a moment, considering. "I am heading west to Wyoming. Got family there running a ranch. I could use someone to help with the cooking and camp duties on the trail. The pay would not be much, but it would get you out of South Dakota and to a place where you could make a fresh start. My cousin and his wife run a respectable operation, and his wife is always looking for help at the main house." Sophia stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. "You would do that, for a stranger? We are all strangers until we are not," Lucas said with a slight smile. "Besides, I know what it is like to be judged for making a mistake. I am not one to throw stones." He paused, then added, "I will be straight with you, Miss Norwood. The trail is not easy and there are dangers between here and Wyoming. But if you are willing to take the risk, I will get you there safely. You have my word on that." Sophia looked at this man who had appeared out of nowhere like an answer to a prayer. she had not known how to pray. Everything in her upbringing told her not to trust a stranger, not to ride off into the wilderness with a man she had just met. But what choice did she have? Stay in Deadwood and face humiliation, danger, and a life of scraping by on the margins of society? Or take a chance on the kindness of a stranger and the possibility of something better? "I have a little money," she said carefully. "I can pay my way." "Keep your money," Lucas said. "You will need it when you get to Wyoming. I am not asking for payment, just help with the daily tasks." "Can you cook?" "Yes, my mother taught me." "Can you ride?" "A little." "That will have to do. We will take it slow and you will learn as we go." He glanced at the sky. "We should leave soon. Those men might come back with friends, and I would rather not be here if they do." "Do you need to get anything from town?" Sophia thought of her former life, her family, the home she had known. There was nothing there for her now. "No," she said quietly. "I have everything I need right here." Lucas nodded and walked to his mare, opening one of the saddlebags. He pulled out a bundle wrapped in cloth and handed it to Sophia. "Breakfast. Not fancy, but it will fill your stomach. Eat while I break down your camp and get things ready." Sophia unwrapped the cloth to find bread, cheese, and dried beef. Her mouth watered at the sight of food. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No need for thanks," Lucas said. "We will be trail partners. We look out for each other. That is how it works." As Sophia ate, Lucas efficiently packed up her few belongings and secured them to his horse. He worked with the practiced ease of someone who had done this many times before. When she finished eating, he helped her mount the mare, then swung up behind her. "It will be a few days before we can get you your own horse," he explained. "For now, we will ride double. Not the most comfortable arrangement, but it will do. You just hold on and try to move with the horse, not against her. Her name is Copper, and she is as steady as they come." Sophia felt self-conscious being so close to a man she barely knew, but Lucas kept a respectful distance as much as the saddle allowed. As they rode away from Deadwood, she turned back one last time to look at the town where she had spent her entire life. The morning sun glinted off the windows of her father's store, and she could see the church steeple rising above the other buildings. It all looked so small from this distance, so insignificant. "Regrets?" Lucas asked softly. "I do not know," Sophia answered honestly. "Everything I knew is back there. My family, my home. Even if they cast me out, it is still the only life I have ever known." "The known is comfortable even when it hurts," Lucas said. "But sometimes the unknown is where we find who we are really meant to be. Give it time. The sting will fade and new possibilities will open up. I have been traveling for 3 years now, and I have learned that home is not always a place. Sometimes it is a feeling, sometimes it is people. You will find your place again, Miss Norwood. I am sure of it." They rode in silence for a while, following a trail that wound through the Black Hills. The landscape was beautiful in the morning light, all green pines and gray granite rocks. Birds sang in the trees, and occasionally they would see deer grazing in meadows. Sophia had never been this far from town before, and despite her uncertain situation, she felt a small thrill of adventure. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said after a while. "Of course." "Why are you helping me? You do not know me. I could be trouble." Lucas was quiet for a moment before answering. "About 4 years ago, I made a mistake, fell in with the wrong crowd, did some things I am not proud of. Nothing violent," he added quickly, "but I was running with men who were not honest. When things went bad, I took the fall for something I did not do. Spent 6 months in jail before the truth came out and I was cleared. But by then, my reputation was ruined. My family believed me, but no one else did. I could not get honest work, could not show my face in town without people whispering. So I left. Spent the last 3 years traveling, doing odd jobs, staying ahead of my past. I am sorry, Sophia said softly. Do not be. It taught me something important. Everyone deserves a second chance, and most people deserve the benefit of the doubt. When I heard your story last night in the saloon, I heard men talking about you like you were already ruined, already beyond redemption. But I saw a young woman who made a mistake trusting the wrong person. That is not a crime deserving of exile. So when I saw you this morning, alone and vulnerable, I thought maybe I could be for you what I wished someone had been for me back then. A hand up instead of a hand pushing you down. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes again, but they were different tears than she had cried the night before. These were tears of gratitude, of hope. I do not know how to thank you. Just keep moving forward, Lucas said. Do not let this define you. That is thanks enough. They rode until midday, when Lucas called for a stop near a small stream. He helped Sophia down from the horse, and she was grateful to stretch her legs. She was already sore from riding, her muscles unused to the constant motion. We will rest here for a bit, Lucas said, leading Copper to the stream to drink. There is a trading post about 10 miles ahead. We will stop there tonight, get you some proper traveling clothes and supplies. Those dresses you are wearing will not do for the trail. Too easy to snag on branches, and the hems will be destroyed in a day. Sophia looked down at her dress, already dusty and wrinkled from sleeping on the ground. He was right, of course. She had never owned anything but dresses, but she would need to adapt to this new life. Lucas built a small fire and heated water in a battered tin pot, making coffee that was strong and bitter but warmed Sophia from the inside. They ate more bread and cheese, and Lucas told her about his cousin's ranch in Wyoming, painting pictures with his words of wide open spaces and mountains that touched the sky. Henry started with nothing, Lucas explained. Just a small plot of land and a big dream. But he worked hard, married a woman who was just as tough as he is, and built it into something special. They have about 200 head of cattle now, some horses, and are always looking for good help. His wife, Emma, she is originally from Missouri, came west as a school teacher. She runs the house and keeps the books for the ranch. Smart woman, I think you would like her. What will I do there? Sophia asked. Whatever you want eventually, but at first probably help Emma with the house and the cooking. During roundup and branding season, everyone pitches in however they can. It is hard work, but honest, and Henry will pay fair wages. By the end of your first year, you should have enough saved to set up on your own if that is what you want, or stay on if you like it there. It sounds almost too good to be true, Sophia said quietly. It is real, Lucas assured her. I would not lie to you about this. Henry knows I am coming. I sent him a telegram from Deadwood last night after I heard about your situation. He wired back this morning saying you would be welcome. Sophia's eyes widened. You planned this before you even met me, Lucas shrugged, looking a bit embarrassed. I had a feeling I would find you this morning, and I wanted to have a real offer to make, not just empty words. Henry is a good man. He will not hold your past against you. They continued riding after their rest, and by late afternoon they reached the trading post Lucas had mentioned. It was a rough wooden structure set in a clearing, with a corral for horses and a small barn. The proprietor was a grizzled old man named Chester who greeted Lucas like an old friend. Lucas Vaughn, you old dog. Back again already. Just passing through, Chester. Need to outfit my traveling companion here. Miss Norwood needs practical clothes for the trail. Chester looked Sophia up and down with sharp but not unkind eyes. I have some ready-made things that might fit. My daughter left some clothes behind when she got married and moved to Denver. She was about your size. He disappeared into the back of the store and emerged with an armful of clothing. There were 2 pairs of sturdy trousers, 3 simple shirts, a leather vest, and a wide-brimmed hat similar to the one Lucas wore. There was also a split skirt, a compromise between practicality and propriety that would allow Sophia to ride more easily. "These should do," Chester said. "The outhouse is around back if you want to change." Sophia gathered the clothes and went to change, feeling strange as she pulled on the trousers and shirt. She had never worn men's clothing before, but she had to admit it was far more comfortable and practical than her dress. When she emerged, Lucas nodded approvingly. "Much better. You will be able to move freely and keep up on the trail." "How do they feel?" "Strange," Sophia admitted. "But good. I can see why men prefer them." Lucas laughed. "They do have their advantages. Chester, we will take all of it. How much?" They haggled over the price, and Sophia insisted on paying despite Lucas's protests. It felt important to contribute, to not be entirely dependent on his charity. They also purchased supplies for the trail, including coffee, beans, flour, salt pork, and ammunition for Lucas's guns. As the sun began to set, Chester showed them to a small cabin behind the trading post that he rented to travelers. It had 2 rooms, and Lucas insisted Sophia take the bedroom while he would sleep on the floor in the main room. "You need a good night's rest on a real bed," he said. "Tomorrow we start the hard part of the journey. The trail gets rougher from here." That night, Sophia lay in the narrow bed and stared at the ceiling, her mind whirling. 24 hours ago, she had been cast out from everything she knew. Now she was wearing men's clothing, preparing to travel across the frontier with a stranger, heading toward a future she could not imagine. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Through the thin wall, she could hear Lucas moving around in the other room, the sound of his boots on the wooden floor, the creak of leather as he tended to his gear. She felt safe knowing he was there, which was strange considering she barely knew him. But there was something about Lucas Vaughn that inspired trust. He had an honesty about him, a straightforward way of speaking that made her believe every word he said. She thought about Thomas, the man she had believed herself in love with. Looking back now with clearer eyes, she could see that Thomas had never been honest with her. He had told her what she wanted to hear, painted pictures of a future together that he had never intended to make real. At the first sign of trouble, he had run. Lucas, by contrast, had ridden toward trouble to help a stranger. Sophia drifted off to sleep thinking that perhaps her father had done her a favor by casting her out. If Thomas had stayed, she might have married him, and only then discovered the truth of his character when it was too late. This way, she was free to find her own path. The next morning, they set out early. Lucas had purchased a second horse from Chester, a sturdy gray gelding named Flint, and Sophia rode him with increasing confidence as the morning wore on. Lucas was a patient teacher, showing her how to sit properly in the saddle, how to guide the horse with gentle pressure from her legs, how to read the animal's mood and respond accordingly. They traveled through varied terrain, sometimes following established trails, sometimes cutting across open country. Lucas seemed to have an innate sense of direction, always knowing which way to go even when no clear path presented itself. He pointed out landmarks, taught her how to read the sun and stars for navigation, showed her which plants were safe to eat and which to avoid. In the evenings, they would make camp and Lucas would build a fire while Sophia prepared their meal. She discovered she enjoyed the simplicity of trail cooking, making do with limited ingredients and basic equipment. Lucas always praised her efforts, even when the beans were a bit too hard or the coffee too strong. As the days passed, they fell into an easy rhythm. They would ride from dawn until midday, rest during the hottest part of the afternoon, then ride again until evening. At night, they would sit by the fire and talk, Lucas told her about his travels, the places he had seen, the people he had met. Sophia found herself opening up as well, telling him about her childhood in Deadwood, her dreams of seeing more of the world, her complicated feelings about her family. "You miss them?" Lucas asked one night as they sat under a sky full of stars. "Yes," Sophia admitted. "Especially my mother and my brother. I know my mother did what she could to help me. And my brother, he is only 14. I do not hold it against him that he could not stand up to our father." "What about your father?" Sophia was quiet for a long moment. "I am angry at him. But I also understand, in a way. He built his reputation in that town over 20 years. Everything he has is tied to being seen as respectable and moral. Having a daughter who defied him and associated with a gambler that threatened everything he worked for. That does not make what he did right," Lucas said firmly. "You are his daughter. Families should stand together, especially when times are hard. You sound like you speak from experience." "My family stood by me when everyone else turned their backs," Lucas said. "That is the only reason I am still standing. If they had cast me out, I do not know what I would have done. Probably would have become the criminal everyone already thought I was." "What happened?" Sophia asked gently. "You said you took the fall for something you did not do." Lucas poked at the fire with a stick, sending up a shower of sparks. "I was working at a freight company in Kansas. The owner's son was stealing from the shipments and blaming it on me. I did not realize what was happening until the law showed up at my door. The son had planted stolen goods in my room as evidence. It was his word against mine, and he was the owner's son. The owner believed him, and I went to jail. But you said you were cleared." 6 months later, the son got drunk and bragged about what he had done to the wrong person. Word got back to his father and the truth came out. The charges were dropped and the son went to jail instead. But by then, the damage was done. People remembered I had been arrested, but they forgot or did not care that I had been innocent, so I left. "That is terrible," Sophia said. "You lost everything because of someone else's dishonesty." "Not everything," Lucas corrected. "I still had my family, my integrity, and my freedom. Those are the things that matter. The rest is just circumstance. You learn to adapt to build a new life. Is that what you are doing?" "Building a new life at your cousin's ranch," Lucas smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe I am still figuring out where I belong. I have been drifting for a while, but it feels like it might be time to put down roots somewhere. Henry has offered me a partnership if I want it. After a year or two of working the ranch, I could buy in as a part owner. It is a good offer. What is holding you back?" "I suppose I am afraid of failing again, afraid of building something and having it taken away. It is easier to keep moving, to not get too attached to any one place or plan." Sophia understood that feeling all too well. "But you cannot drift forever." "No," Lucas agreed. "You cannot. Eventually, you have to take a risk on something, on somewhere, on someone." Their eyes met across the fire, and Sophia felt something shift in the air between them. Over the past week of traveling together, she had grown to admire Lucas in ways that went beyond gratitude. He was kind and patient, strong but gentle, honest to a fault. He treated her as an equal, asking her opinion on which direction to travel, what to cook for dinner, where to make camp. He taught her skills without condescension, praised her progress without exaggeration, and never once made her feel like a burden. More than that, she found herself drawn to him in ways she had never been drawn to Thomas. With Thomas, it had been the excitement of doing something forbidden, the thrill of defying her father. With Lucas, it was something deeper and more real. She admired his character, his strength, the way he moved through the world with quiet confidence. She found herself watching him when he was not looking, noticing the way the firelight played across his features, the way his hands moved with practiced ease as he tended to their camp. She was falling in love with him, she realized, and the thought terrified her. It was too soon, too fast. She had barely escaped the consequences of her last romantic mistake. How could she trust her own judgment now? And even if her feelings were real, what if Lucas did not feel the same way? He had been nothing but respectful and proper, never crossing any lines, never giving her reason to think he saw her as anything more than a traveling companion he was helping out of kindness. "You are quiet," Lucas observed. "Everything all right?" "Just thinking," Sophia said, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders, "about how much has changed in such a short time." "Change is not always bad," Lucas said. "Sometimes it is exactly what we need, even if we did not know we needed it." That night, as Sophia lay in her bedroll looking up at the stars, she allowed herself to imagine what it might be like if Lucas felt the same way about her. What it might be like to build a life together, to work side by side on the ranch, to have something real and lasting. But she pushed the thoughts away. It was too dangerous to hope for such things. Better to focus on the practical reality of getting to Wyoming and starting over. The next day brought challenges that pushed romantic thoughts from Sophia's mind. They had to cross a wide river, and the current was stronger than Lucas had anticipated. He crossed first to test the depth and footing, then came back for Sophia. "Hold on tight and trust Flint," he instructed. "He is a strong swimmer. Just keep your head up and do not panic if the water gets high." Sophia nodded, her heart pounding as she urged Flint into the water. The current immediately tried to push them downstream, and the water quickly rose to her knees, then her waist. Flint snorted and struggled, and for a moment Sophia thought they might be swept away. But the horse found his footing on the rocky bottom and pushed forward, Lucas riding close beside them ready to help if needed. When they finally reached the far bank, Sophia was soaked and shaking but exhilarated. "I did it," she said, laughing with relief. "You did," Lucas agreed, grinning at her. "You are tougher than you think, Sophia Norwood." It was the first time he had used her given name without the formal Miss, and Sophia felt a warm flush that had nothing to do with the exertion of the river crossing. As they rode on, the landscape began to change. The Black Hills gave way to rolling plains, vast expanses of grass that stretched to the horizon in every direction. The sky seemed bigger here, the clouds more dramatic, the sunsets more spectacular. Sophia had never seen anything like it, and despite the hard days of riding and the constant aches in her unaccustomed muscles, she felt a growing sense of wonder and possibility. They encountered other travelers occasionally, sometimes freight wagons heading east, sometimes small groups of settlers heading west in search of land and opportunity. Lucas was always cautious around strangers, keeping his hand near his gun until he was sure they meant no harm. Most people were friendly enough, grateful for news from the trail ahead, and willing to share what information they had about conditions farther on. One evening, about 2 weeks into their journey, they camped near a small settlement that had sprung up around a trading post and stagecoach stop. Lucas suggested they have a real meal at the establishment's dining room, a luxury after weeks of camp food. Sophia changed into the split skirt, her only remaining concession to femininity, and washed as best she could using water from her canteen and a cloth. She braided her hair, which had grown sun-streaked and wild during their travels, and tried to look presentable. When she emerged from behind the wagon where she had changed, Lucas looked up and went very still. "You look nice," he said, his voice a bit rougher than usual. "Thank you," Sophia replied, feeling suddenly shy. The dining room was crowded with travelers and locals, noisy and warm. They found a small table in the corner and ordered stew and fresh bread. The food was simple but tasted wonderful after the monotony of trail meals. As they ate, a group of musicians in the corner struck up a lively tune, and some of the diners began to dance. Sophia watched them with longing. She had always loved to dance, and it had been so long since she had done anything purely for joy. Lucas noticed her expression and stood, offering his hand. "Would you like to dance?" "I do not know if I remember how," Sophia said, but she took his hand and let him lead her to the cleared space that served as a dance floor. Lucas was a surprisingly good dancer, guiding her through the steps with easy confidence. Sophia stumbled at first, out of practice and self-conscious, but soon the music and movement took over. She found herself laughing as Lucas spun her around, forgetting for a moment about everything except the simple pleasure of the moment. When the song ended, they were both breathless and smiling. "Thank you," Sophia said. "I needed that." "We both did," Lucas replied. His hand was still holding hers, and neither of them seemed in a hurry to let go. As they walked back to their camp later that night, Lucas was quieter than usual. Sophia wondered what he was thinking but did not want to intrude on his thoughts. They had fallen into such a comfortable partnership that she sometimes forgot they had known each other for only a few weeks. And yet, in those weeks, they had shared more honest conversation and genuine companionship than she had experienced in her entire courtship with Thomas. "Sophia," Lucas said as they reached their camp, "there is something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat at the serious tone of his voice. "What is it?" "I have been thinking a lot these past few days. About the ranch, about the future, about what I want my life to look like." He paused, seeming to struggle with his words. "And I have realized that what I want is not just a place to settle down or work to do. I want someone to share it with. Someone who makes me want to be better, to work harder, to build something lasting." Sophia held her breath, afraid to hope. "I know this is fast," Lucas continued. "I know we have not known each other long, but I also know that you are one of the finest people I have ever met. You have faced hardship with courage and grace. You have adapted to a completely different life without complaint. You work hard, you are honest, and you make me laugh. I find myself thinking about you when I should be thinking about the trail, worrying about your comfort when I should be worried about making time. I wake up looking forward to our morning conversations and spend the day looking forward to our evenings by the fire." He took a deep breath and met her eyes. "What I am trying to say, very badly, is that I care about you, Sophia. More than I should, probably, given the circumstances. If you do not feel the same way, I understand. I will still get you to the ranch safely and help you get settled. Nothing has to change, but I could not go another day without telling you the truth." Sophia felt tears spring to her eyes, but they were happy tears. "Lucas," she said softly, "I care about you too. I have been trying not to, trying to tell myself it is too soon, that I cannot trust my own judgment after what happened with Thomas. But every day we spend together, I become more certain. What I felt for Thomas was not real. It was the idea of romance, of adventure, of defying my father. But what I feel for you is different. It is real and solid and growing stronger every day. You are a good man, Lucas Vaughn, the best man I have ever known." Lucas stepped closer, reaching up to gently cup her face in his hands. "May I kiss you?" "Yes," Sophia whispered. The kiss was tender and sweet, full of promise and possibility. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "So what happens now?" Sophia asked. "We keep going to the ranch," Lucas said. "I want you to have time to settle in, to have your own space and independence. I do not want you to feel pressured or dependent on me. You need to know you can stand on your own 2 feet before we make any permanent decisions about the future. But when you are ready, when you are sure, I will be here. I will wait as long as you need." "That sounds perfect," Sophia said, though part of her wanted to skip all the waiting and planning and jump straight to forever. But Lucas was right. She needed to prove to herself that she could be independent, that she was making choices out of strength rather than necessity. They held each other for a long moment under the vast star-filled sky, and Sophia felt a peace she had not known in months. Whatever the future held, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The final week of their journey flew by. They crossed into Wyoming and the landscape changed again, becoming more rugged and dramatic. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks still white with snow even in summer. Lucas pointed out landmarks and told stories about his previous visits to the ranch, painting pictures of the life that awaited them. Finally, one afternoon in early August, they crested a rise and Lucas pointed to a valley below. There it is, the Vaughn Ranch. Sophia shaded her eyes and looked. She could see a sprawling ranch house, several barns and outbuildings, corrals full of horses, and cattle grazing across the valley. Smoke rose from the chimney of the main house, and she could see people moving about doing their work. It looked prosperous and well-tended, a sign of hard work and good management. As they rode down the valley, a woman emerged from the house and waved. She was tall and sturdy-looking, with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun and a welcoming smile. Behind her came a man who could only be Henry, with the same green eyes and dark hair as Lucas, though he was stockier and a few years older. "Lucas," Henry called out, striding forward to embrace his cousin. "About time you showed up. We were starting to worry." "Good to see you, Henry," Lucas said warmly. "And Emma, you are looking as lovely as ever." Emma laughed and swatted his arm. "Flattery will get you everywhere, and you must be Sophia. Welcome to the Vaughn Ranch. I hope the journey was not too difficult." "It was long but beautiful," Sophia said, accepting Emma's hand. "Thank you for having me." "Nonsense, we are happy for the help. Come inside, you must be exhausted. Lucas, have one of the hands take care of the horses. Sophia, you can freshen up and then we will have supper." "I want to hear all about your journey." The ranch house was spacious and comfortable, furnished simply but with care. Emma showed Sophia to a small bedroom on the second floor that would be hers. It had a real bed with a colorful quilt, a dresser, a washstand, and a window that looked out over the valley. After weeks of sleeping on the ground, it seemed impossibly luxurious. "Take your time getting settled," Emma said. "Supper will be in about an hour. I will have one of the girls bring up hot water so you can wash properly." When Emma left, Sophia sat on the bed and looked around her new home. The room was simple, but it was hers, the first space that had been truly her own since leaving Deadwood. She felt tears threaten again, overwhelmed by the kindness of these strangers who had welcomed her without question or judgment. A knock on the door announced the arrival of a young Mexican woman carrying a pitcher of hot water. "Hola, I am Resita," she said with a friendly smile. "I help Senora Emma with the house. If you need anything, you just ask." "Yes, thank you, Resita," Sophia said gratefully. She washed away the dust and grime of the trail, changed into the one good dress she had kept from her old life, and brushed out her hair. Looking at herself in the small mirror above the washstand, she barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Her face was tanned from weeks in the sun, her hair lighter, her eyes brighter. She looked healthy and strong, so different from the pale merchant's daughter who had been cast out of Deadwood just a month ago. Supper that evening was a lively affair. In addition to Henry, Emma, Lucas, and Sophia, there were several ranch hands who ate at the main house. Emma clearly ran a welcoming operation where everyone was treated like family. The food was plentiful and delicious, and the conversation flowed easily. After the meal, Henry and Lucas went outside to smoke and talk business, leaving Emma and Sophia to clean up with Resita's help. Lucas told us a bit about your situation, Emma said as they washed dishes. I want you to know that your past is your own business. We all come west to start fresh, and we do not judge anyone by where they have been, only by who they are now. Thank you, Sophia said. That means more than you know. I was a school teacher back in Missouri, Emma continued. Came out here to teach at a settlement school and ended up meeting Henry. My family thought I was crazy to marry a rancher and live in what they called the wilderness, but I have never been happier. Sometimes the life we think we want is not the life we are meant to have. The trick is being brave enough to embrace the unexpected. Lucas has been very kind, Sophia said carefully, not sure how much Emma knew about their growing relationship. Emma smiled knowingly. Lucas is a good man. He has been through some hard times, but they have made him stronger and more compassionate. I have never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Whatever happens between you two, I hope you know you always have a home and a friend here. Over the following weeks, Sophia settled into the rhythm of ranch life. She helped Emma with cooking, cleaning, and managing the household. During the busy harvest and preparation for winter, everyone pitched in wherever they were needed. Sophia learned to preserve vegetables, smoke meat, make soap and candles, all the skills necessary for frontier life. She also spent time with Lucas whenever his work allowed. They would take evening walks together, talking about everything and nothing. He showed her the ranch, introduced her to his favorite horses, taught her to ride better. Their relationship deepened and grew, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine friendship. One evening in late September, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple, Lucas took her hand. "You have been here almost 2 months now," he said. "You have proven you can stand on your own, build a life for yourself. Emma says you are the best help she has ever had, and Henry says the ranch runs smoother with you here." "I love it here," Sophia admitted. "I never thought I could be happy away from towns and civilization, but this life suits me. I feel like I am contributing something real, doing work that matters." "Sophia," Lucas said, turning to face her, "I have waited as long as I can. I am in love with you. I think I started falling for you that first morning by the creek in Deadwood, and I have fallen deeper every day since. I want to build a life with you, here on this ranch. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to work hard during the day knowing you will be there in the evening. I want to build something lasting and real with you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple gold band. "This was my grandmother's ring. My mother gave it to me before I left Kansas, said I would know when I found the right woman to give it to. Sophia Norwood, will you marry me?" Sophia felt her heart swell with love and certainty. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, Lucas, I will marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, deep and passionate, a kiss full of promises and plans and possibilities. When they finally broke apart, they saw Henry and Emma watching from the window, grinning like fools. They were married in late October, just before the first snow. The ceremony was simple, held at the ranch with the local preacher officiating and all the ranch hands in attendance. Emma had helped Sophia make a new dress for the occasion, cream-colored with delicate embroidery at the collar and cuffs. Lucas wore his best suit, his hair neatly trimmed and his boots polished to a shine. As they exchanged vows, Sophia thought about how far she had come from that terrible day in Deadwood. She had been cast out for loving the wrong man, but that casting out had led her to the right one. Lucas had proven through his actions and his constancy that she had chosen correctly this time. He was a man of integrity and kindness, strength and gentleness, exactly the partner she had been searching for without knowing it. The celebration that followed was joyful and full of laughter. The ranch hands brought out fiddles and guitars, and they danced under the stars just as they had that night at the trading post, but this time as husband and wife. Henry had built them a small cabin on the ranch property, a wedding gift and a symbol of Lucas's partnership in the ranch. It was modest but well made, with a bedroom, a main room with a fireplace, and a small kitchen area. Emma had furnished it with quilts and curtains, dishes and cookware, everything they would need to start their married life. That first night in their own home, Lucas carried Sophia over the threshold and set her down gently in the middle of their new home. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Sophia answered honestly. "Thank you for finding me, for believing in me, for loving me." "Thank you for taking a chance on a traveling cowboy with a questionable past," Lucas replied. "You have made me believe in fresh starts and second chances." They built a life together over the following years, working side by side on the ranch. Lucas proved to be an excellent partner to Henry, and together they expanded the ranch, bringing in new breeding stock and improving the grazing lands. Sophia worked with Emma, and the two women became close friends as well as sisters-in-law. In the spring of 1878, Sophia gave birth to their first child, a healthy boy they named Samuel after Lucas's father. Lucas was a devoted father, tender and patient with the baby. Sophia sometimes watched him cradling their son and felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the life they had built together. 2 years later, they had a daughter they named Margaret after Sophia's mother, a small gesture of forgiveness and remembrance. And 2 years after that, another son, whom they named Henry after Lucas's cousin, a tribute to the man who had given them both a chance at a new life. The ranch continued to prosper, and Lucas and Sophia became respected members of the growing community. They helped new settlers get established, offered work to those who needed it, and were known for their fairness and generosity. One day, in the summer of 1883, a letter arrived from Deadwood. It was from Sophia's mother, the first contact she had had with her family in 7 years. The letter was tear-stained and heartfelt. "My dearest Sophia," it read, "I hope this letter finds you well and happy. Your father passed away last winter, and in his final days he expressed regret for how he treated you. He asked me to try to find you, to tell you he was sorry, though he did not have the courage to write himself. Your brother is now running the store and doing well. He would like to know his sister again, if you would allow it. I understand if you cannot forgive us for how we failed you when you needed us most. But please know that I have thought of you every day, prayed for your safety and happiness, and never stopped loving you. If you are willing, I would dearly love to know how your life has unfolded. Your loving mother, Margaret." Sophia read the letter several times, emotions warring within her. There was old pain there, old anger, but there was also understanding. Her father had been a product of his time and place, governed by pride and reputation. He had made a terrible mistake, but he had also provided for her mother, given her the money that had allowed Sophia to escape and start fresh. She showed the letter to Lucas, who read it carefully before handing it back. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to write back," Sophia said. "I want my mother to know that I am happy, that her sacrifice was not in vain. I want her to know her grandchildren. As for my father, I forgive him. It does not erase what he did, but I understand it better now. And I am grateful in a strange way. If he had not cast me out, I never would have found you." "Then write to her," Lucas said, kissing her forehead. "Life is too short to carry grudges, and you have always had a generous heart." Sophia wrote a long letter to her mother that very day, telling her about Lucas, about the ranch, about her children, about the life she had built in Wyoming. She included a photograph that a traveling photographer had taken of their family the previous year, all of them standing in front of their cabin, smiling and healthy and whole. Her mother wrote back immediately, and over the following months, they exchanged regular letters. Eventually, Sophia's mother and brother came to visit the ranch, a reunion that was emotional and healing for everyone involved. Her mother cried when she met Lucas and thanked him for taking care of her daughter. Her brother was impressed by the ranch and the life Sophia had built, admitting he had always known she was stronger than their father had given her credit for. The years continued to pass, bringing both joys and sorrows as all lives do. Henry and Emma's children grew up alongside Lucas and Sophia's, a passel of cousins who ran wild across the ranch and learned the value of hard work and family. The ranch continued to grow and prosper, eventually becoming one of the most successful operations in the territory. On their 20th anniversary, Lucas took Sophia riding up to a ridge that overlooked the entire valley. They sat on a blanket watching the sunset, just as they had so many times over the years. "You ever regret it?" Lucas asked. "Leaving behind your old life, taking a chance on a stranger?" Sophia laughed and leaned against his shoulder. "Not for a single moment. You gave me everything I did not even know I wanted. A real partnership, a true home, a life full of purpose and love. I was cast out for loving the wrong man, but that casting out led me to the right one. You proved I had chosen correctly by choosing me back, by standing beside me through everything, by loving me even when I was difficult or afraid." "You are never difficult," Lucas said, kissing her hair. "Well, almost never, liar," Sophia said affectionately, "but I love you for it." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and red. Below them, they could see the ranch spread out in the valley, the home they had built together through hard work and determination. Smoke rose from the chimneys of several cabins now, as the ranch had grown to house multiple families. Their children were down there somewhere, probably causing some sort of mischief or working on their evening chores. Lucas wrapped his arm around Sophia's shoulders, and she felt the same sense of peace and contentment she had felt on that first evening on the ranch, when she realized she had finally found where she belonged. Their oldest son, Samuel, had recently married a sweet-natured young woman from a neighboring ranch, and they were expecting their first child. The thought of becoming grandparents made both Lucas and Sophia feel ancient and amazed in equal measure. Their daughter Margaret was courting a young man who worked on a ranch 3 valleys over, a hard-working fellow who reminded Sophia a bit of Lucas in his younger days. And young Henry, the baby of the family at 16, was already talking about expanding the ranch's horse breeding program, showing the same business acumen and dedication that had made his father and namesake so successful. "I got a letter from my cousin in Kansas last week," Lucas said. "He said the town where I was arrested has grown into a proper city now. The freight company where I worked is still there, bigger than ever. The owner's son served his time and apparently turned his life around, became a preacher. Strange how things work out. You ever want to go back?" Sophia asked. "See how things have changed?" "No," Lucas said without hesitation. "That is the past, and I have no interest in revisiting it. Everything that matters to me is right here. You, our children, this ranch, this life. I have everything I could possibly want." Sophia turned to look at her husband, his face weathered by years of outdoor work, but still handsome to her eyes, his green eyes still bright and full of warmth when he looked at her. She thought about the young woman she had been, desperate and alone on the streets of Deadwood, and the frightened girl who had ridden away from everything she knew with a stranger. She thought about how scared she had been, how uncertain, how convinced that her life was over before it had truly begun. But it had not been the end. It had been a beginning, the start of something better than she could have imagined. Lucas had not just rescued her from a difficult situation. He had seen her potential, believed in her strength, and given her the space and support to become the person she was always meant to be. "I love you," she said simply. "Thank you for finding me." "I love you too," Lucas replied. "And I will find you again in every lifetime, in every version of our story. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Sophia Vaughn. You always will be." As darkness fell and the first stars appeared in the vast Wyoming sky, they rode back down to the ranch together, side by side as they had been for 20 years, and would be for however many years they had left. The lights of home welcomed them, warm and golden in the gathering dusk, and the sound of their children's laughter drifted across the valley. Sophia had been cast out for loving the wrong man, but in being cast out, she had found the right one. Lucas had been a traveling cowboy with nothing but his integrity and his word, but he had proven to be worth more than all the respect and security her old life had offered. Together they had built something real and lasting, a love that had weathered every storm and grown stronger with each passing year. Years continued to unfold in a pleasant rhythm. The ranch saw good years and hard years, times of plenty and times when they had to tighten their belts and work twice as hard. Through it all, Lucas and Sophia remained each other's constant support, facing every challenge together and celebrating every victory as partners in the truest sense of the word. Their first grandchild, a robust boy named Lucas after his grandfather, arrived in the spring of 1884. Sophia held the tiny baby and felt her heart expand in ways she had not known were possible. Watching Lucas cradle his grandson with the same tenderness he had shown their own children, she fell in love with him all over again. "We did good," Lucas whispered to her as they watched Samuel and his wife cooing over the baby. "We built something that will last beyond us." "We did," Sophia agreed, leaning into his embrace. As the 1880s progressed, Wyoming began to change rapidly. The territorial government became more organized, more towns sprang up, and the railroad brought increasing numbers of settlers and businesses. The wild frontier was slowly being tamed, becoming more civilized and connected to the rest of the nation. Lucas and Sophia witnessed these changes with mixed feelings, nostalgic for the wilder days but grateful for the increased stability and opportunity the changes brought for their children and grandchildren. In 1890, Wyoming achieved statehood, and the celebration that swept through the territory reached even their remote valley. The ranch threw a grand party, inviting neighbors from miles around. As Sophia looked around at the gathered crowd, she marveled at how much their community had grown. When they first arrived at the ranch in 1876, there had been perhaps a dozen families in the entire valley. Now there were hundreds, a thriving community with schools and churches, shops and social organizations. "Quite a turnout," Henry remarked, standing beside her with a cup of punch. Emma had passed away the previous winter after a brief illness, and Henry was still adjusting to life without his beloved wife. Sophia had done her best to support him through his grief, remembering how Emma had welcomed her with such kindness all those years ago. "Emma would have loved this," Sophia said gently. "She always did love a good party." "That she did," Henry agreed with a sad smile. "She would have been so proud to see what this ranch has become, what this valley has become. We started with nothing but hope and hard work, and look what we built." "You built it," Sophia said. "You and Emma laid the foundation for all of this." "No," Henry corrected. "We all built it together. That is what family does. You and Lucas, you have been just as important to this ranch's success as Emma and I ever were, maybe more so. Lucas has a gift for the business side that I never had, and you, Sophia, you have been the heart of this place. Everyone who comes here feels welcomed and cared for because of you." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes at the unexpected praise. "Thank you, Henry. That means more than you know." She found Lucas later that evening, standing at the edge of the celebration looking out over the darkened valley. She slipped her hand into his and he squeezed it gently. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Just remembering," Lucas said. "Thinking about that first time we rode into this valley together, how young we were, how uncertain about the future. I keep thinking about that scared young woman who had lost everything, trying so hard to be brave. Look at you now, Sophia. You are the strongest person I know." "I had a good teacher," Sophia said. "You showed me what real strength looks like, not the kind that dominates or controls, but the kind that supports and encourages. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself." "We saved each other," Lucas said simply. "You needed someone to believe in you, and I needed someone to believe in. We both needed a fresh start, a second chance. We were lucky enough to find it together." The celebration continued late into the night, with music and dancing and laughter echoing across the valley. Sophia danced with Lucas, with her sons, with her son-in-law, and even with little Lucas, her grandson, who was now 6 years old and insisted he was old enough to dance properly. As the last guests finally departed and the household settled down for the night, Sophia and Lucas walked slowly back to their cabin, Lucas's arm around her waist. "Are you happy?" he asked, the same question he had asked her on their wedding night all those years ago. "More than I can say," Sophia answered. "Every day with you is a gift." The 1890s brought more changes and more grandchildren. Margaret gave them 2 granddaughters and a grandson. Young Henry married and started a family of his own, building a house on the far edge of the ranch property. The ranch itself continued to evolve, adapting to changing markets and new opportunities. Lucas proved to be a forward-thinking manager, one of the first in the region to experiment with new breeding techniques and improved pasture management. Sophia found her own role expanding beyond the household. She became known throughout the valley as someone who could be counted on in times of trouble. When families faced hardship, she was there with food and support. When women faced childbirth in remote cabins with no doctor available, Sophia was often called upon to help, drawing on knowledge she had gained through her own experiences and from learning from others over the years. She became an unofficial midwife and nurse, beloved by the community for her capable hands and kind heart. In 1895, Sophia received word that her mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep in Deadwood. Her brother wrote a touching letter describing their mother's final years, how she had spoken often of Sophia and her family in Wyoming, how proud she had been of the life her daughter had built. Sophia grieved but found comfort in knowing they had reconciled before the end, that her mother had known she was loved and forgiven. Lucas held her through her grief, patient and understanding as always. "She gave you the tools you needed to escape and build a new life," he reminded her. "That took courage and love. Remember her for that." As the new century approached, Lucas and Sophia found themselves in their mid-40s, no longer young but far from old, still active and engaged in the life of the ranch and the community. Their children were now adults with children of their own, and the ranch was home to 3 generations of Vaughns, a legacy of love and hard work that showed no signs of ending. On New Year's Eve 1899, as the old century gave way to the new, the ranch held another celebration. Sophia stood on the porch of the main house, watching her children and grandchildren laughing and playing in the snow, and felt a profound sense of gratitude. She thought about that desperate young woman who had been cast out of Deadwood nearly 24 years ago, who had believed her life was over, who had taken a terrifying chance on a stranger and been rewarded beyond measure. "Penny for your thoughts," Lucas said, joining her on the porch with 2 cups of hot cider. "Just thinking about how far we have come," Sophia said, accepting the cup gratefully. "How much has changed, how much we have built together." "Any regrets?" Lucas asked. "Only that I wasted any time at all on Thomas Garrett," Sophia said with a laugh. "But even that led me to you, so I suppose I cannot regret it too much." "I heard he died a few years back," Lucas said casually. "Poker game went wrong in Denver, or so the story goes." "I feel sorry for him," Sophia said honestly. "He never learned what really matters in life. He spent his whole life chasing easy money and excitement, never realizing that real wealth is found in family and honest work and love." "You are a better person than I am," Lucas said. "I do not feel sorry for him at all. If he had been a better man, you might have married him, and then where would I be? Probably married to some other lucky woman," Sophia teased. "You are too good a man to have stayed single forever." "There never was anyone but you," Lucas said seriously. "From that first morning by the creek, you were the only one I could see, the only one I wanted. I would have waited forever if that was what it took." They kissed as fireworks exploded over the valley, set off by some of the ranch hands to celebrate the new century. Around them, their family cheered and celebrated, oblivious to the quiet moment of love and commitment shared by the couple who had built this life, this legacy, this family. The early years of the 20th century brought continued prosperity to the ranch. The advent of better transportation and communication meant they could reach broader markets for their cattle and horses. Lucas invested in improving the ranch's infrastructure, building better barns and corrals, improving the irrigation systems that kept their pastures green even in dry years. Sophia continued her work in the community, her reputation as a healer and helper growing with each passing year. She also began teaching younger women the skills they would need to thrive in this still challenging environment, passing on knowledge about everything from preserving food to delivering babies to managing a household on the frontier. In 1905, Samuel's oldest son, young Lucas, now 21, asked his grandparents to tell him the story of how they met. The family had gathered for Sunday dinner, as had become their tradition, and the younger generation had been asking questions about the old days. Lucas and Sophia exchanged glances, and Lucas nodded for her to begin. Sophia told the story she had told many times over the years, but it never lost its power. She spoke of being cast out from her home for loving the wrong man, of the fear and uncertainty she had felt, of the 3 men who had threatened her by the creek. Then Lucas took over, describing how he had been on his way to the ranch after years of drifting, how he had heard the story of a merchant's daughter cast out for defying her father, how something had compelled him to ride out early that morning to look for her. "I saw your grandmother standing there, trying to be brave even though she was terrified," Lucas said, looking at Sophia with the same love and admiration he had always shown. "And I knew in that moment that my life was about to change forever." "Grandfather, how did you know she was the one?" young Lucas asked. "I did not right away," Lucas admitted. "But I knew she deserved a chance, deserved to be treated with respect and kindness. As we traveled together, I got to know her. I saw her courage, her resilience, her good humor even in difficult circumstances. I saw how she adapted to a completely different way of life without complaining. I saw her kindness and her strength. And somewhere along the trail, I fell in love with her. By the time we reached this ranch, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her." And grandmother, when did you know you loved grandfather? Margaret's oldest daughter asked. Sophia thought carefully before answering. It was not one moment but many small moments. The way he taught me to ride without ever making me feel foolish for not knowing. The way he shared his food and his fire without making me feel like a burden. The way he spoke to me like an equal, asked my opinion, listened to what I had to say. The way he looked at me, not with judgment or pity, but with respect and growing affection. I had thought I was in love before, but I did not truly understand what love was until I met your grandfather. Real love is not just excitement and passion. It is partnership and respect. It is someone who sees you at your worst and loves you anyway. It is building something together and facing life's challenges side by side. The grandchildren listened raptly, and Sophia could see some of them glancing at their own sweethearts and spouses with new understanding. It was important to her that they understood that real love was not like the stories in romantic novels, all passion and drama. Real love was quieter, steadier, built on a foundation of friendship and mutual respect. As the years continued to pass, Lucas and Sophia settled into the comfortable rhythm of a long marriage. They knew each other so well that they could communicate with just a glance or a gesture. They had weathered enough storms together that no challenge seemed insurmountable as long as they faced it together. They had built a life that was rich in meaning and love, surrounded by family and community. In 1910, the ranch celebrated its 40th anniversary with a grand party. Neighbors came from 100 miles away to honor the Vaughn family and the legacy they had built. There were speeches and toasts, music and dancing, and enough food to feed an army. Lucas and Sophia, now in their 50s and still healthy and active, found themselves the center of attention. Henry, now in his 60s and white-haired but still sharp as ever, stood to make a toast. 40 years ago, my cousin Lucas showed up here with a young woman he had rescued on the trail. I will admit, I was skeptical at first. I thought maybe Lucas was acting out of pity or some misguided sense of responsibility. But I was wrong. What I witnessed over the following months was two people falling in love in the truest, deepest sense. I watched them build a partnership based on respect and affection. I watched Sophia transform from a frightened girl into a confident woman. I watched Lucas find the purpose and stability he had been searching for. Together, they have been the heart and soul of this ranch. They have raised 3 wonderful children who have given us 8 grandchildren and counting. They have built a legacy of kindness and hard work that has made this entire valley a better place. To Lucas and Sophia Vaughn, may they have many more years of health and happiness. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Sophia felt tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by the love and appreciation flowing from their family and friends. Lucas pulled her close and kissed her temple. "We did all right, did we not?" he whispered. "Better than all right," Sophia whispered back. "We did beautifully." As the party wound down and the guests began to depart, Sophia found herself standing in the same spot where Lucas had proposed to her so many years ago. The ranch looked different now, bigger and more developed, but the mountains still rose majestically in the distance, and the sky was still vast and full of stars. Lucas joined her, as he always did, as if drawn to her side by some invisible thread. They stood together in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the night and the fading music from the party. "You remember when we stood here after I proposed?" Lucas asked. "Of course," Sophia said. "How could I forget? It was one of the happiest moments of my life." "I told you I loved you and wanted to build a life with you," Lucas said. "I had no idea then just how wonderful that life would be. If I had known, I would have ridden out to find you even sooner." Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to, Sophia said. We found each other at exactly the right time, when we both needed each other most. They remained there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by the life they had built together. The ranch was quiet now, their children and grandchildren settled in their various homes across the property. Tomorrow would bring new work and new challenges, but for tonight, there was only this moment of peace and contentment. The years that followed brought the inevitable sorrows of aging. Henry passed away in 1912, joining his beloved Emma at last. His loss was felt deeply by everyone on the ranch, but especially by Lucas, who had lost not just a cousin but a best friend and partner. Sophia supported Lucas through his grief, just as he had supported her through so many challenges over the years. They began to slow down a bit, passing more of the daily management of the ranch to Samuel and young Henry, who had proven themselves capable and forward-thinking managers. But Lucas and Sophia remained active and engaged, offering advice when asked and enjoying their roles as the beloved matriarch and patriarch of a growing family. More grandchildren arrived, and then great-grandchildren. Sophia loved being surrounded by young life, enjoyed watching the new generations grow and learn and find their own paths. She told them stories of the old days, of traveling across the frontier, of building the ranch from almost nothing. She wanted them to understand the value of hard work and perseverance, of choosing partners wisely, of building lives based on love and respect, rather than convenience or passion alone. In 1920, as they celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary, Lucas surprised Sophia with a trip back to Deadwood. Their youngest grandson was getting married in 2 months, and Lucas suggested they take a few weeks beforehand to revisit the place where their story had begun. Sophia was hesitant at first. She had not been back to Deadwood since that terrible day when she was cast out. But Lucas was persuasive, arguing that it would give them closure, allow them to see how much had changed and how far they had come. They made the journey by train this time, a far cry from the weeks of hard riding they had endured all those years ago. Deadwood had changed dramatically, transformed from a rough frontier town into a proper city with paved streets, electric lights, and modern buildings. Sophia barely recognized it. Her brother had maintained the family business and was now a respected member of the community. He welcomed them warmly, showing them around the town and introducing them to his own children and grandchildren. The old prejudices and judgments had long since faded, replaced by curiosity about Sophia's life and admiration for what she and Lucas had built together. They visited her father's grave, and Sophia laid flowers on it with complicated emotions. She had long since forgiven him, but standing at his grave, she felt a final release of the old hurt and anger. He had done the best he could with the understanding he had, limited though it had been. On their last day in Deadwood, Lucas took Sophia to the creek where he had first found her. The grove of cottonwood trees was still there, though the town had expanded around it and it was now part of a small park. "This is where I first saw you," Lucas said, standing in the spot where he had sat on his horse that morning so long ago. "You were trying so hard to be brave, gathering your belongings with shaking hands. I remember thinking that anyone who could face such humiliation with that much dignity was someone special." "I was terrified," Sophia admitted. "I had no idea what I was going to do, where I was going to go. And then you appeared like something out of a dream, offering me a chance at a new life. You were my miracle, Lucas Vaughn." "And you were mine," Lucas said, taking her hands in his. "You gave me a reason to stop drifting, a reason to believe in the future. You showed me what real love looks like, what real partnership means. Everything good in my life comes from that morning when I decided to ride out and look for you." They stood there together, two people in their 60s who still looked at each other with the love and devotion of newlyweds. The years had left their marks, gray hair and weathered skin, but their love had only grown stronger and deeper with time. As they prepared to return to Wyoming, Sophia felt a sense of peace and completion. She had faced her past, made peace with it, and could now fully embrace the future without any lingering shadows. She had been cast out for loving the wrong man, but that casting out had been the best thing that could have happened to her. It had led her to Lucas, to the ranch, to a life beyond anything she could have imagined in her younger days. The train ride back to Wyoming gave them time to talk and reflect. They spoke about their children and grandchildren, about the ranch and its future, about their own hopes for the years they had remaining. "I want to grow old with you," Lucas said one evening as they sat in their private compartment watching the landscape roll by. "I want to sit on our porch in rocking chairs and watch our great-grandchildren play. I want to tell stories about the old days and spoil the young ones rotten. I want every remaining day I have on this earth to include you." "That sounds perfect," Sophia agreed. "Though I am not quite ready for rocking chairs yet, I still have too much to do," Lucas laughed. "Of course you do. You will probably be organizing something or helping someone right up until your last breath. It is one of the things I love most about you." They returned to the ranch to a warm welcome from their family. The wedding preparations were in full swing, and Sophia threw herself into helping with the arrangements, enjoying the bustle and excitement. Watching her youngest grandson marry a sweet young woman reminded her of her own wedding day, of the hopes and dreams she and Lucas had carried into their marriage. The wedding was beautiful, held at the ranch with the mountains providing a spectacular backdrop. As Sophia watched the young couple exchange vows, she caught Lucas's eye across the crowd. He smiled at her, that same warm smile that had captivated her heart all those years ago, and she smiled back. After the wedding, as the celebration continued around them, Lucas and Sophia slipped away to their cabin. They sat on the porch in the gathering dusk, holding hands and watching the stars begin to appear. 42 years, Sophia mused. It seems like forever and like no time at all. "The best 42 years of my life," Lucas said. "And hopefully we will have many more to come." They did have more years, precious years filled with the simple joys of family and home. They watched more grandchildren marry and more great-grandchildren arrive. They saw the ranch continue to grow and prosper under the capable management of the next generation. They remained active and engaged, contributing what they could and enjoying the respect and love of their community. In 1925, as they celebrated their 47th wedding anniversary, the entire valley turned out to honor them. There was a parade through the nearest town, speeches from local dignitaries, and a celebration at the ranch that lasted 3 days. Lucas and Sophia were embarrassed by all the attention but touched by the genuine affection shown by their neighbors and friends. "You have been an example to all of us," the mayor of the town said in his speech. "You have shown us what real love looks like, what real partnership means. You have built something lasting and meaningful, and your legacy will continue for generations to come." That night, as they lay in bed together, Lucas held Sophia close. "I love you," he whispered. "I have loved you every day of our marriage, and I will love you for whatever time we have left and beyond." "I love you too," Sophia whispered back. "Thank you for finding me, for loving me, for building this beautiful life with me. You proved to me that I had chosen correctly when I chose to trust you that morning in Deadwood. You have been everything I could have asked for in a husband and more." They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, Two souls who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful together. Their love story had begun with heartbreak and casting out, but it had transformed into something rare and precious, a testament to the power of second chances and the beauty of choosing wisely. The ranch continued to thrive, generation after generation carrying on the legacy that Lucas and Sophia had helped build. Their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren told and retold the story of how their love began, of the traveling cowboy who had rescued a cast-out merchant's daughter and built a life with her based on respect, partnership, and deep, abiding love. And in the quiet moments when the work was done and the family had gathered, you could still sometimes see Lucas and Sophia, now in their 70s but still devoted to each other, sitting together on their porch, holding hands and watching the sun set over the mountains they had made their home. They had been given a second chance at life and love, and they had made the most of every single day, building a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. Their story was proof that sometimes being cast out was actually being set free, that loving the wrong person could lead you to the right one, and that a traveling cowboy with nothing but integrity and kindness could prove to be the greatest treasure a woman could ever find.